Hey everybody, it's Jason Blah here, and it's time for part 5 of the Q&A. We're at the end, so let's finish this up. First question. Thoughts on cold weather training? I work out in my shed and it's been 10 to 25 degrees below 0 Celsius for the last 3 months. Damn. Do you think this would slow down my strength gains, limit me in any way? P.S. I'm from Canada. Thanks, Jason. Wow, that is rough. No, I think you can make the same gains. Obviously, because you're from Canada and you've been training in this, you're used to training in it, you're adapted to it. My concerns would be, outside of obvious risk of hypothermia and then problems with keeping the hands warm. You might want to invest in a bar warmer or something. They do make those that will heat the bar up and you hook it to it and it electrically gets it hot so that you don't get some frostbite on your hands. That is tough, brother. But outside of the concern for the hands, the main thing would be keeping all of your joints and stuff warm. And I'm not big on wraps for that. What I would recommend is make sure you train in sweats. So definitely sweats, even 2 layers of sweats for your bottoms, just to keep your knees warm. And I mean, even when you're bench pressing, you want to put on 2 layers of sweatshirts. That's perfectly reasonable in that situation, just to keep your joints warm. But outside of that, you probably have it under control. That's a tough situation to train in, but as long as you're not getting actual exposure issues or injuries due to joints getting too cold, there's no reason you can't make the gains in it. Alright, next question. Ways to work on speed and explosiveness. For example, getting out of the squat hole, pushing the bar up after the pause on the bench, breaking the weight off the floor and rise for the deadlift. Alright, let's talk about this a little bit. The best stuff you can do for your speed strength is to just practice doing all the pause work. Sometimes that means you can do even raw types of speed work, which means you might work with, say, 70% of your max and do a bunch of triples. High volumes of triples where everything is paused. You come down and you do pause squats. You come down and you do pause bench. But the main thing you've got to focus on is getting explosive on the deadlift. Deficit deadlifts, even a 1-inch deficit can do a lot to make you more explosive off the bottom. So you don't have to even necessarily do speed work for this. You can literally just practice doing 1-inch deficit deadlifts. And if you do that for a while, you'll find that when you go back to normal deadlifts, you'll have more pop off the floor. And you got to find your right leverages on the deadlift to get that pop out of the bottom. It's a little different as far as hand positions, foot positions. So you got to find your best leverages there, but definitely the deficits will help with that. With a bench press, tons and tons and tons of pause benching. With your squats, if you're really weak out of the bottom, you got to do pause squats. But you don't want to run exclusively pause squats because you want to make sure you train that myotatic reflex at the bottom too. So a combination of the two, but lots of pause squats will definitely help you there and lose the wraps. If you got wraps, you need to lose those. Are going to make you weaker out of the bottom. Same with your sleeves. You need to lose that shit if being weak at the bottom is a problem for you. Alright, last question of the week. Floor press versus board press for raw lifters. You know, when it comes to accessory work like this, there actually isn't one correct answer because accessory work varies, but I'm going to say that for the vast majority of raw lifters, most of the time the floor press is going to be a more appropriate tool for you. Now, the board press can be good for doing partials purely for the purpose of getting used to holding a heavier weight. But as far as the actual lockout strength itself as a raw bencher, you generally don't have true lockout strength issues. It can't be resolved with a little bit of tricep work or just getting faster. So the floor press is going to be a little better, and mainly because that floor press for a lot of guys puts you right at where a lot of people's bar slows down, and you're having to press from a dead stop with those elbows on the floor, which makes it kind of a unique tool. It really comes back to just being dead stop training right through a weak point. Because for me, it's about 1 inch off the chest. When I floor press, the bar stops about 1 inch off my chest. And that's kind of a weak point for me, and it's a weak point for a lot of benchers who are raw benchers. So it can be a really useful tool there just because of that dead stop. And again, with the board pressing, different boards are used for different things by equipped lifters, so a 3 board is not the same as a 4 board or a 1 board. But the truth is, most raw lifters ones who have true lockout strength issues, because most of us are doing tricep work anyways of some type, are going to be really, really rare. We are generally weak off the chest. Alright guys, so that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it has been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time. But let me give you guys a bicep shot before I go.